For 6 years, Sandy Koufax was the most unhittable pitcher in baseball. He won 3 Cy Young Awards when only one was given for both leagues. He threw 4 no-hitters, including a perfect game. He set strikeout records that stood for nearly a decade. He led the Dodgers to 3 pennants and 2 World Series championships. And then, at 30 years old, at the absolute peak of his powers, he walked away. Koufax retired after the 1966 season with a 1.73 earned run average, 27 wins, and his 3rd Cy Young Award in 4 years. His left elbow was destroyed by arthritis. The doctors told him that if he kept pitching, he might lose the use of his arm entirely. He chose his future over his fame. He became the youngest player ever elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame, and more than half a century later, he remains the standard by which all dominant pitching is measured. This is the story of the left arm of God, the Brooklyn kid who became one of the greatest Jewish athletes in American history, the wild fireballer who could not throw strikes until he learned to throw slower, the man who sat out Game 1 of the World Series because it fell on Yom Kippur and then came back to win Game 7 on 2 days' rest. This is Sandy Koufax. Sanford. Braun was born on December 30th, 1935, in the Borough Park section of Brooklyn, New York. His parents, Jack and Evelyn Braun, divorced when he was 3 years old. His father, a salesman, drifted out of his life. Sandy was raised by his mother, a certified public accountant who worked long hours to support them. While Evelyn worked, Sandy spent most of his childhood with his maternal grandparents, Max and Dora Lichtenstein. He spent his summers at a Jewish camp in upstate New York, where his mother worked as a bookkeeper. It was a modest upbringing in a close-knit Jewish community. When Sandy was 9, his mother remarried. Irving Koufax was an attorney, a kind and supportive man who encouraged the boy in everything he did. Sandy took his stepfather's name and essentially severed ties with his birth father. Irving Koufax became his father in every way that mattered. The family moved briefly to Rockville Center on Long Island, then back to Brooklyn, settling in the Bensonhurst neighborhood. Sandy grew into a tall, muscular teenager with an athlete's build. Childhood friends who saw him at the beach described him as looking like a Greek god. But here is the thing about Sandy Koufax that surprises most people. He was not a baseball player as a kid. He was a basketball player. At Lafayette High School in Brooklyn, Koufax was a star on the basketball court. At 6'2", he dominated the league. He had such a powerful arm that he could throw a basketball the length of the court to a teammate waiting under the basket. He was captain of the team, a local celebrity in the Brooklyn schoolboy sports scene. Baseball was almost an afterthought. When he played at all, he played first base or catcher. He barely pitched. The sport that would make him famous was barely on his radar. Everything changed because of a Sandlot manager named Milt Laurie. Laurie was a fixture in Brooklyn's youth baseball scene, a man who had once been signed by the Boston Braves and who now ran teams in the Coney Island Sports League. One day he watched a teenager named Sandy Koufax pitch for a team in the Ice Cream League, a local youth league. Koufax walked 9 batters in 2 innings. He was wild beyond belief. But Laurie saw something. He saw an arm unlike anything he had ever seen. He had his son Walter, who was Sandy's classmate, invite Koufax to join his Sandlot team, the Parkviews. Koufax initially refused. Laurie kept asking. Finally, Koufax agreed. He did not pitch much at first, but when he did, he struck out 16, 17, 18 batters at a time. Irving Koufax came to a game one day and was so impressed that he told Evelyn to give Sandy money for a new pair of spikes. It was the first indication that someone in the family saw baseball as more than just a hobby. In 1953, Koufax accepted a basketball scholarship to the University of Cincinnati. He planned to study architecture. He made the freshman basketball team and averaged nearly 10 points per game. Basketball was still his primary sport, but in the spring of 1954, he walked onto the college baseball team. He went 3-1 with 51 strikeouts and 30 walks in 32 innings. The wildness was still there, but so was the power. Scouts began to notice. The New York Giants invited him to try out at the Polo Grounds. Koufax, nervous and young, threw wildly over the catcher's head. The Giants never called back. The Pittsburgh Pirates brought him to Forbes Field. During the workout, his fastball broke the thumb of the team's bullpen coach. Branch Rickey, the legendary general manager, said Koufax had the greatest arm I have ever seen. But the Pirates waited too long to make an offer. The Brooklyn Dodgers sent scout Al Campanis to watch Koufax throw at Ebbets Field. Manager Walter Alston and scouting director Fresco Thompson were there. Campanis stepped into the batter's box while Koufax started throwing. Years later, Campanis described what he saw. He said, "There are 2 times in my life the hair on my arms has stood up. The first time I saw the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, and the second time I saw Sandy Koufax throw a fastball." Irving Koufax negotiated the contract. They agreed on a $14,000 signing bonus and a $6,000 salary, $20,000 total. On December 14, 1954, 2 weeks before his 19th birthday, Sandy Koufax signed with his hometown, Brooklyn Dodgers. There was just one problem. Under the rules of the time, any player who received a bonus over $4,000 had to remain on the major league roster for 2 years. He could not be sent to the minor leagues for development. Sandy Koufax, who had pitched only a handful of games in college and never played organized baseball as a teenager, was going straight to the major leagues. The early years were brutal. Koufax made his debut on June 24, 1955, pitching 2 scoreless innings against the Milwaukee Braves. 2 months later, on August 27th, he threw a 2-hit shutout against the Cincinnati Redlegs, striking out 14 batters in his first complete game. It was a debut that offered a glimpse of what he could become, but those glimpses were rare. Koufax had an overpowering fastball and a devastating curveball, but he had no idea where either pitch was going. He led the league in wild pitches. He walked batters at an alarming rate. Teammates described him as unable to throw the ball inside the batting cage during practice. Duke Snider, the Hall of Fame center fielder, remembered, when he first came up, he could not throw a ball inside the batting cage. The Dodgers won the 1955 World Series, their first championship in franchise history. It was the sweetest moment in Brooklyn baseball history, the year they finally beat the Yankees. Koufax did not pitch in it. He sat on the bench and watched his teammates celebrate. The following winter, the Dodgers sent Koufax to Puerto Rico to pitch winter ball for the Caguas Criollos. The manager was Ben Garagti, a renowned developer of young talent. Koufax went just 3-6, but he threw a 1-hit shutout on Halloween night and a 2-hit shutout in December. Roberto Clemente got the only hits off him in that second game. There were signs of what he could become if he could only find consistency. For 6 years, from 1955 through 1960, Koufax was a curiosity more than a star. He went 36-40 overall, averaging about 6 wins per season. He showed flashes of brilliance but could not sustain them. The wildness that had been charming in a teenager became frustrating in a professional. Teammates like Jackie Robinson and Roy Campanella thought manager Walter Alston should give the young left-hander more chances to pitch. But Alston was cautious. Koufax enrolled in night classes at Columbia University to study architecture. He was not sure baseball was going to work out. He needed a backup plan. The transformation happened in 1961, and it changed everything. The exact moment is the subject of some debate. Some credit catcher Norm Sherry, who suggested during a spring training game that Koufax take something off his fastball and concentrate on throwing strikes. Others credit various pitching coaches or simply the natural maturation of a young pitcher finally growing into his body and his talent. Whatever the cause, something clicked. Koufax finally figured it out. He stopped trying to throw every pitch as hard as he could. He started trusting his stuff. He learned that hitters could not touch his fastball even when he was not overthrowing it, and that his curveball was unhittable when he could locate it. The same pitches that had been wild became precise. The same arm that had been erratic became a weapon. In 1961, Koufax went 18-13 with a 2.54 earned run average. He led the major leagues with 269 strikeouts. He made his first All-Star team. On September 20th, in the final game ever played at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, Koufax threw a complete game, striking out 15 Cubs in a 13-inning victory. He threw 205 pitches that night. He was 25 years old, and his career was finally beginning. What followed was the greatest 5-year run by any pitcher in baseball history. From 1962 through 1966, Sandy Koufax went 111-34. He led the National League in earned run average all 5 seasons. He led in shutouts all 5 seasons. He won the pitching Triple Crown 3 times, leading the league in wins, strikeouts, and earned run average in 1963, 1965, and 1966. Only 2 other pitchers in history have accomplished that feat 3 times, Walter Johnson and Grover Cleveland Alexander. He won 3 Cy Young Awards in 4 years, at a time when only 1 award was given for both leagues combined. All 3 were unanimous selections. He was the first pitcher ever to win 3 Cy Young Awards, and the first to win even 1 unanimously. He threw 4 no-hitters, more than any pitcher in history at that time. The first came on June 30th, 1962, against the expansion New York Mets. The second came on May 11th, 1963, against the San Francisco Giants and their ace Juan Marichal. The third came on June 4th, 1964, against the Philadelphia Phillies. The fourth, on September 9th, 1965, against the Chicago Cubs, was a perfect game. The perfect game was a masterpiece unlike anything baseball had seen. Koufax faced 27 batters and retired all 27. He struck out 14, including the final 6 in a row. The Cubs lineup included 3 future Hall of Famers, Ernie Banks, Billy Williams, and Ron Santo. All of them struck out at least once. Banks struck out 3 times. What made it even more remarkable was the opposing pitcher. Bob Hendley, a journeyman left-hander, picked that night to throw the game of his life. He allowed just 1 hit and 1 walk. The Dodgers scored their only run without getting a hit. Lou Johnson walked, was sacrificed to second, stole third, and scored on a wild throw by the catcher. Hendley lost 1-0 while allowing just 1 hit. The 2 pitchers combined for the fewest hits in a 9-inning game in Major League history, 1. The fewest base runners, 2. It was nearly a double no-hitter. Ernie Banks struck out 3 times on 9 pitches. He remembered it this way: 1, 2, 3, gone. 1, 2, 3, gone. 1, 2, 3, gone. He was like a machine on the mound. It was the first time in my career that I have seen an athlete just have it all. I mean, just put it all together. Billy Williams, who hit 290 career home runs and was one of the most dangerous hitters of his era, summed it up simply: we knew what was coming. And we still couldn't hit it. Vin Scully, the legendary Dodgers broadcaster, called the final out with words that have become part of baseball lore. He said, "It is 9:46 p.m. in the City of Angels, Los Angeles, California. 2-2 to Harvey Cuen, 1 strike away, Sandy into his windup. Here is the pitch. Swung on and missed. A perfect game." The game lasted 1 hour and 43 minutes. It remains the only perfect game in Dodgers history. Koufax became the first pitcher to throw 4 no-hitters, a record that stood until Nolan Ryan broke it in 1981. But of all his dominant seasons, 1963 may have been the most complete. In 1963, Koufax put together one of the greatest seasons any pitcher has ever had. He went 25-5 with a 1.88 earned run average and 306 strikeouts. He threw 11 shutouts, setting a new record for left-handed pitchers, breaking Carl Hubbell's mark of 10 from 1933. He won both the Cy Young Award and the National League Most Valuable Player award. The Cy Young vote was unanimous, the first time that had ever happened. In the World Series against the mighty New York Yankees, a team that had appeared in 14 of the previous 16 Fall Classics, Koufax was even better. In Game 1, he struck out 15 batters, setting a new World Series record for strikeouts in a single game. He beat Whitey Ford 2-0. He came back in Game 4 and won again. The Dodgers swept the Yankees in 4 games, the first time New York had been swept in a World Series since 1922. Koufax was named World Series Most Valuable Player. He was 27 years old, and he was the best pitcher on the planet. Richie Ashburn, the Hall of Fame outfielder who faced Koufax throughout his career, offered the most succinct assessment. Either he throws the fastest ball I've ever seen, or I'm going blind. Willie Stargell, another Hall of Famer, put it differently. Trying to hit Sandy Koufax was like trying to drink coffee with a fork. But something was wrong with Sandy Koufax's arm. In 1964, during a game in August, Koufax slid awkwardly into second base and felt something give in his left elbow. The joint swelled to the size of an inflated tire. He was diagnosed with traumatic arthritis. His season was over. The doctors told him he could keep pitching, but the condition would only get worse. There was no surgery to fix it in 1964. The treatments were primitive cortisone shots, anti-inflammatory medications, ice, heat, and hope. Koufax kept pitching. In 1965, he went 26-8, with a 2.04 earned run average and 382 strikeouts, a new major league record that would stand until Nolan Ryan broke it in 1973. He threw his perfect game in September. He won his second Cy Young Award, and then came the World Series against the Minnesota Twins. Game 1 was scheduled for October 6, 1965. It fell on Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the Jewish calendar, the Day of Atonement. Sandy Koufax was not an especially religious man. He was a secular Jew who had grown up in Brooklyn's Jewish community but did not regularly attend synagogue. He had pitched on Yom Kippur before in regular season games. But this was different. This was the World Series. The whole country would be watching. And Koufax understood what it would mean if he, the most famous Jewish athlete in America, pitched on Yom Kippur while millions of Jewish families across the country were fasting and praying. It was only 20 years after the Holocaust. Jewish identity in America was still being defined. What he did mattered beyond baseball. He told the Dodgers he would not pitch Game 1. Dodgers owner Walter O'Malley, a Catholic, supported the decision completely. "I won't let Sandy pitch on Yom Kippur under any circumstances," he told the press. "I can't let the boy do that to himself." Don Drysdale, Koufax's fellow ace and future Hall of Famer, started Game 1 instead. It did not go well. The Minnesota Twins knocked Drysdale out in the third inning, scoring 7 runs. They won the game 8-2. When manager Walter Alston came to the mound to remove Drysdale, the pitcher reportedly quipped, "I bet right now you wish I was Jewish too." Koufax pitched Game 2 and lost 2-1 despite pitching well. The Dodgers fell behind 2-0. Flying back to Los Angeles for Game 3, it looked like the decision to honor his faith might cost them the championship. On the plane, Drysdale looked at Koufax and said, "Well, we sure got ourselves in a hell of a mess, didn't we?" And then they both laughed as if it were all a joke. The Dodgers won Games 3 and 4 in Los Angeles. Koufax came back to win Game 5, throwing a 4-hit shutout and striking out 10. The series was tied 3-2, heading back to Minnesota. The Twins won Game 6, setting up a decisive Game 7. Manager Walter Alston had a choice: start Koufax on 2 days rest, or start the fully rested Drysdale. He chose Koufax. The problem was that Koufax's arm was in agony. He had pitched through pain all season, but now it was worse than ever. Before Game 7, catcher John Roseborough went to the mound and asked what they were going to do about his sore arm. Koufax looked at him and said something that has become part of baseball legend. "We're going to blow him away." That's exactly what he did. Koufax threw a 3-hit shutout. He struck out 10 batters. The Dodgers won 2-0. He was named World Series Most Valuable Player for the second time in 3 years. The Yom Kippur decision made Koufax a hero to Jewish Americans across the country. John Thorne, the official historian of Major League Baseball, was born to 2 Holocaust survivors in a displaced persons camp in Germany. He was in college when Koufax sat out Game 1. "What struck me was that America must be a very great place," Thorne said. "That a Jew cannot only profess his faith openly, but take a stance for his religion in opposition to the national religion. And baseball is America's national religion." Rabbi Rebecca Alpert later explained the significance. "When you talk to a generation of Jewish men who grew up during the period, it mattered a lot. Jews were seen as not very masculine, as weak figures. And here was Koufax, the most dominant pitcher in baseball, standing up for his faith." In 1966, Koufax and teammate Don Drysdale staged a joint holdout before the season, demanding better contracts from the Dodgers. It was a pivotal moment in baseball labor history. 2 star pitchers negotiating together against ownership. They hired an agent and asked for a 3-year contract worth $1 million to be split between them. It was unprecedented. Players simply did not negotiate that way in 1966. They eventually settled for less than they asked, but the holdout marked a turning point in the relationship between players and owners. Koufax went out to have the best season of his career. He went 27-9 with a 1.73 earned run average, both career bests. He struck out 317 batters. He won his 3rd pitching Triple Crown, leading the league in wins, earned run average, GT, and strikeouts. He won his 3rd Cy Young Award, the first pitcher ever to win 3. He threw 27 complete games, never missing a start, never coming out of a game early. But in April, team physician Dr. Robert Kurlan had told him his arm could not take another season. The arthritis had progressed to the point where Koufax could no longer fully straighten his elbow. It occasionally went numb, causing him to drop whatever he was holding. He was taking cortisone shots and swallowing pills to manage the constant pain. He soaked his arm in ice after every start. Dr. Kurlan told reporters that Sandy pitched in extreme pain that could only be overcome by his motivational urge. Koufax said later that he thought there was only one game that season when his arm did not hurt. He had already decided to make 1966 his final season. He kept that decision to himself and went out to pitch every 4th day. The Dodgers won the National League pennant again, but were swept by the Baltimore Orioles in the World Series. They were held to just 2 runs in 4 games. The Orioles' young pitchers, including Jim Palmer and Wally Bunker, shut down the Dodgers' weak offense. Koufax started Game 2 and took the loss, yielding 4 runs, only one of them earned in 6 innings. It was the last game he ever pitched. On November 18, 1966, Sandy Koufax held a press conference at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel in Los Angeles. The Dodgers were touring Japan. No one from the team's front office was present, just Koufax and the reporters. He announced his retirement. He was 30 years old. He told reporters that he had a lot of years to live after baseball and that he would like to live them with the complete use of his body. He said he did not regret 1 minute of the last 12 years, but he thought he would regret 1 year that was too many. When he finished speaking, the entire room of reporters applauded. It was an extraordinary moment. Sports writers do not applaud, but for Sandy Koufax, walking away from the game at the peak of his powers to protect his health, they made an exception. Sandy Koufax left baseball with numbers that remain staggering. 165 wins and 87 losses, a 2.76 career earned run average. and a 2.36 earned run average for the decade of the 1960s, the lowest of any pitcher, with at least 1,200 innings. 2,396 strikeouts in 2,324 innings, meaning he struck out more batters than innings he pitched. 40 shutouts, 4 no-hitters, a perfect game. He was the first pitcher to average more than 9 strikeouts per 9 innings for his career. He was the first to average fewer than 7 hits allowed per 9 innings. He won 3 Cy Young Awards when that meant beating out every pitcher in both leagues. He was named World Series Most Valuable Player twice. In the postseason, his numbers were even better: 4 wins, 3 losses, and a 0.95 earned run average. In the 1965 World Series alone, he threw 24 innings with a 0.38 earned run average and 2 shutouts. In 1972, Sandy Koufax was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame in his first year of eligibility. He received 344 votes out of 396 ballots. At 36 years and 20 days old, he became the youngest player ever inducted into the Hall. After retirement, Koufax signed with NBC as a broadcaster, but he was uncomfortable in front of cameras and never took to the job. Public speaking was not his strength. He resigned after 6 years. In 1979, he returned to the Dodgers as a minor league pitching coach, mentoring young pitchers in the organization's farm system. Al Leiter, who would go on to win 200 games in the major leagues, credited Koufax with helping him become a better pitcher. Koufax resigned from the coaching position in 1990, but continued to make informal appearances at spring training for decades. Koufax has always been famously private, granting few interviews and avoiding the spotlight that most retired stars seek out. His mother once said that when she heard Sandy was writing his autobiography, she asked for one of the first copies so she could finally learn about her son. "You never told me anything," she said. He was married twice. His first marriage, to actress Anne Widmark, lasted from 1969 to 1982. He married Kimberly Francis in 2013. In 2002, he briefly cut ties with the Dodgers after the New York Post, which was owned by the same company that then owned the team, published a false and defamatory story about him. He returned to the organization after the Dodgers were sold in 2004. In 2022, the team unveiled a statue of Koufax at Dodger Stadium, placing it next to the statue of Jackie Robinson. Sandy Koufax's legacy extends beyond baseball statistics. He was one of the greatest Jewish athletes in American history, arriving 16 years after the Holocaust, at a time when Jewish men were still stereotyped as weak and unathletic. His dominance on the mound helped shatter those stereotypes. His decision to sit out Game 1 of the World Series on Yom Kippur became a defining moment in American Jewish identity. He was an ally to minority players throughout his career. Teammate Maury Wills recalled that after games, he and Koufax would go through each other's mail, sorting out the racist letters sent to Wills and the anti-Semitic ones sent to Koufax. Pitcher Joe Black, who mentored Koufax during his first spring training, said if he was in a restaurant, he would never shy away from sitting with the colored fellas. He was a gentleman in a rough sport. Writer Thomas Boswell observed, "There is hardly a strong enough word for the way the other players feel about Koufax. It almost goes beyond affection. For a man so gentle, he seems misplaced in a jock shop." But Koufax himself pushed back against the idea that he was soft. "It sure as hell isn't gentle," he said of his competitive nature, especially playing the game. What made Sandy Koufax great? It was not just the fastball, though the fastball was among the best ever thrown. Koufax threw with a pronounced straight-over-the-top arm action, generating velocity from his strong legs and back, combined with a high leg kick and a long forward extension toward home plate. His unusually large hands allowed him to put heavy spin on his pitches and control the direction in which they would break. It was not just the curveball, which dropped off a table and left hitters flailing at air. When he located it properly, it was virtually unhittable. It was the combination of power and precision that he finally mastered in his late 20s. After 6 years of frustration and wildness, once he learned to trust his stuff, to take a little off his fastball and focus on location, he became unhittable. It was the mental toughness to pitch through constant pain during his final 2 seasons, to never miss a start despite an elbow that was literally falling apart. He pitched 323 innings in 1966 while his arm was dying. He threw 27 complete games. He never complained, never made excuses, never asked for a day off. It was the courage to walk away at 30 years old, when he could have squeezed out a few more seasons and padded his statistics. He could have won 200 games. He could have struck out 3,000 batters. Instead, he chose his health over his legacy. It was the integrity to honor his faith when millions were watching, to sit out the biggest game of his life because it was the right thing to do. He was not an especially religious man, but he understood what his decision meant to Jewish Americans across the country, and he made the choice that honored his heritage. Dr. Frank Jobe, who invented Tommy John surgery in 1974, often expressed regret that he had not developed the procedure in time to save Koufax's career. Modern medicine might have repaired his elbow. Modern training techniques might have kept him healthy. If Sandy Koufax had been born 30 years later, he might have pitched until he was 40. He might have won 400 games. He might have struck out 5,000 batters. Instead, we have what he gave us: 12 seasons, the last 6 of which were as dominant as any pitcher has ever been. 165 wins, 4 no-hitters, 3 Cy Young Awards, 2 World Series championships, a perfect game, a career ERA of 2.76, and a legacy that transcends the sport itself. Harry Hooper, the Hall of Fame outfielder, once said, "You name a better left-hander in the history of baseball, and I'll eat my hat." Nobody has named one yet. Sandy Koufax was born Sanford Braun in Brooklyn, New York on December 30th, 1935. He was raised by his mother and his stepfather. He played basketball before he played baseball. He was wild before he was great. He dominated for 6 years, and then he walked away, choosing his future over his fame. He became the youngest player ever elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame. He became an icon for Jewish Americans. He became a symbol of integrity in a sport that does not always reward it. He was the left arm of God, and for 6 brief, brilliant years, nobody could touch him. Like and subscribe for more baseball documentaries. Until next time.